Oh, so it's that exciting time in your life when you're about to start college. From basically elementary school all the way till the end of high school, we're given a norm. It's a routine we fall into after 18 years of being alive, and suddenly when you start college, that all completely changes. I remember how I felt 2 years ago before I started college. I was super excited, but I also didn't know what to expect, and that caused me to have a lot of anxiety. After going through it for 2 years, I can assure you that it's all gonna be okay. Nonetheless, it's always good to know what to expect, and so after 2 years of being in college, I've managed to come up with a list of 15 things that I found were the biggest differences transitioning from high school into college life. My name is Bita, and I want to thank you for watching this video. If you find it helpful, make sure you give it a big old thumbs up, and if you want to join me for my journey, make sure you hit that subscribe button because it will make me very happy. Now, on to the video. So I go to Georgia Tech, and I've lived in Georgia my whole life. So my college experience might have been a little different than some of you out there because I go in-state. Now that I'm living in California, I realize what a freaking adjustment it is to have to live entirely on your own in a new setting. I can say without a doubt that if you're going out of state for college, that is going to be the biggest adjustment you have to make. I still hope you find these tips helpful even if you are going out of state because some of them are pretty general to like basically every college student out there. Right off the bat, the biggest difference I noticed between college and high school is how much more time I had. In high school, you wake up at like 7, your school day starts at 8, it ends at like 3:30, and then you have your after school activities. You get home at like 7, take a shower, do homework, go to bed. And that is basically your schedule Monday through Friday, and it's so bad. Suddenly when you go to college, you have all this free time throughout the day and in the evening to like do your hobbies, hang out with friends, work out. Suddenly you have time to be a human being, and it's like the best feeling ever. A lot of people in college have jobs and things that they have to take care of outside of classes. It's no longer like your only thing is to go to school, and so your life is structured around that. I typically take like 14 credit hours, and I have so much free time in my week. It's crazy how much more time you have to just exist as a human being. The second thing kind of builds off of that, and it's that your classes are no longer back-to-back dictated by a bell schedule. All the way up until the end of high school, classes are like there's a bell that rings, you sit in your class, a bell that rings, you leave, you go to the next class, then you go to lunch, and then you go to your next class, and you do that like 7 times every single day. But it's completely different in college, so you get to pick your own schedule. And if you're lucky, some of these classes are offered several times in the day. So like there might be like a morning section and then an afternoon section, and if you prefer one or the other, suddenly you have an option to choose. And like that's just something you can't imagine doing in high school. If you want to finish college in 2.5 years, or if you want to take your time and learn more and have more time for other things, then you have that option. You can customize your course load and when to take your classes. You can choose whether you want to sleep in or not. The freedom we're given over these choices was insane to me. I didn't realize that these classes weren't preset like they are in high school. You have the freedom to choose what your day will look like, and that is a wonderful thing that college offers. The third thing that I noticed about college is that your success is a lot more self-driven. If you're struggling in a class, you cannot expect the teacher to reach out to you. You have to reach out to the professor or the TAs. You have to put in the work and get the help, especially if this is a class with like 200-300 students. You're the one who has to take responsibility for your learning, and that takes maturity and wanting to learn. I remember being in a lecture hall and raising my hand and like nobody saw, and that was such a weird feeling to me. In high school, it's like 20 people, so of course the teacher is going to see you raise your hand, but in a lecture with 250 other students, the chances of you being seen and heard that first time are pretty low, especially if you don't sit right in the front. You're gonna have to go in early or stay after lecture to ask those questions. You might have to go to help sessions or like office hours and ask your questions. You're gonna have to take charge of how much you learn and how much you grow from a course. I don't necessarily think that's a bad adjustment to make. It's just something to be aware of when you're going to college. The biggest thing I think I noticed in college is that grades don't really matter as much as they did in high school. There's so many more opportunities to like get internships, do research, to build your resume and your portfolio as a student. So suddenly grades don't dictate as much as they used to in high school. If you have a specific scholarship that requires you to keep your grade high, then yes, your grades matter. Also, if you're thinking about going to grad school like yours truly, then yes, your grades matter. Another thing I noticed about grades is that if you thought your classes in high school were bad, Oh, dude, I've had classes with like 32 averages. I had an orgo exam once where the average was like a 36 and the highest grade was like a 72. Get used to it. There are classes in college that just destroy you, and that is just part of the process. I mean, everyone is kind of suffering together. So another thing I noticed is that classes are a lot more related to each other because you have a major, so you get to focus your studying. In high school, you're kind of forced to learn like every single subject. Like you have to take a literature class, you have to take a science class, you have to take a math class, but I haven't taken a math class since 2021. So if you choose a major that you're really interested in, well, lucky you. Now you get to focus on that major for like the next 4 years. I think the beauty of it too is your classes kind of start to tie together. So like you might learn something in one class and then it's brought up in another class and you kind of like get this intertwined like feeling of all the things you're learning, and it's really magical, honestly. I really like it. Especially if you're passionate about your major, then I think you'll really enjoy this aspect of college. Another weird adjustment that I had to make was realizing how real everything is. Like suddenly when you do internships or when you do research and things like that, these are like real things that you put on your resume when you want to apply to a real job, which is in like 3 years. You're going from this world of like, yeah, I'm taking my classes, but like it's just high school. Like it doesn't really matter. I'm working towards college. Now that you're in college, you're like, oh, I'm working towards like my future. It's like really exciting because you're building towards something that's like actually gonna last. It's like, oh, I'm working hard to like do the job I'm passionate about or do the job that gets me a lot of money. Another thing about college is that you have to be an adult. That means taking responsibility for your existence as a human being. You have to be hygienic, you have to clean your room yourself, you have to do your laundry yourself, you have to do your groceries and make sure you're eating. I've kind of fallen into that routine at this point. It is a bit of an adjustment at the beginning and it's kind of weird to like be living on your own. Sometimes it can kind of go to your head and then you don't sleep until 3 a.m. every day. But for the most part, I think that this is something that everybody has to go through because you are suddenly so much more independent than you were your entire life. But there's also a lot of beauty in this. Something else about college is that you kind of don't know as many people in your lectures. In high school, you've kind of been with that group of people like probably since 6th grade. Like you've probably known these people for a good decade, honestly. When you go to college, it's not like that at all. You're lucky to know like 3 people in your lectures. I mean, lectures are huge, majors are huge, and depending on what you're learning, you can have over 300 people in your lecture hall. It can be a little difficult to make friends, but I recommend being social and reaching out to the people who sit next to you, making study groups, making group chats, and kind of just trying to get to know the people around you. Especially once you start splitting off into major-specific courses, you find a like group of familiar faces that have suffered with you through all these classes, and you're like, hey, I know you. This is not to scare you off. You will certainly find a friend group in college that you see probably on a daily basis, but it is a weird adjustment to go from knowing a certain group of people in your grade for so long and then suddenly being in an ocean of people that you don't recognize at all. It's really weird, but also full of opportunity. College has a lot less drama. And don't get me wrong, I have experienced drama in college. It was stupid. But for the most part, everyone I've met in college is mature and genuine and just like good people. And I think everyone is just too old and too busy and just too sleep deprived to care about any of this stuff. I'm pretty sure like in college, you find a group of people that you really vibe with and like those are your people. I genuinely think that people in college are a lot nicer, a lot more genuine, and just like a lot better overall. So you know how in high school you're given a giant textbook to check out and you're given that textbook for the whole semester? It's not like that in college. You have to pay money to rent or buy a textbook. A lot of my classes in college so far have had like free options for textbooks or like online versions, things like that. But there are also classes in college where you actually do have to pay money to be able to do the homework and to access the textbook and things like that. You are no longer given the resources to succeed in a class. You kind of have to look for them and search for them yourself. Don't think that you're going to be having to spend like thousands on textbooks, but just be aware that there is a responsibility that comes with having these resources. So in high school, you're given homework and then you're basically expected to turn it in like the next day. In college, you have anywhere from like 2 days to like 3 weeks to finish a homework, but that homework takes that time. Like don't think that you're gonna be zooming through a homework the way you did in high school. The homeworks are several parts, they take a lot of effort. You have to go through your notes to be able to do the problems. So I honestly think when you start doing homework in college, you should space it out and do 1 or 2 problems a day just so you're making progress on a homework, but you're never overwhelmed at any point. It was a weird adjustment to make because I used to be like doing homework in an hour or 2 every night and then suddenly I have to spend literal weeks on a homework. But in a way, it's a little bit more manageable because you can finish a homework early and then just be done for like 2 weeks, you know? So college advisors are a lot more helpful than high school advisors. You can set up meetings with them anytime basically, and you can talk through basically anything you need to. I think advisors are a lot more knowledgeable and care a lot more about your future. I've had wonderful experiences with my college advisors. I think that they were monumentally much more helpful than my high school advisors. They gave me an academic plan that actually fit me and my life goals. I will acknowledge that this is probably not the case for everyone. I've just managed to get lucky with both the advisors I've had, but I think for the most part in college, advisors are a lot better than they are in high school. You actually have time in between your classes in college. So I'm not saying the 15 minutes you have to go from this class to that class, but literal hours even. Sometimes I would have 3 or 4 hours between my first class and my second class. And you can use that time to your advantage. If there's something you want to work on, you can head over to the library, work on it, and then go to your lecture when it's time. You have a lot more time for lunch. You have a lot more time to just chill. To kind of reset between lectures is really, really helpful, honestly. I remember in high school it could get a little overwhelming, especially when topics would change so frequently. You would go from history to math to literature, and it was just kind of crazy to do that all cramped in 3 hours. In college, it's a lot more manageable. You have time in between classes to reset, to get some work done, to eat something, to just kind of listen to music and chill. And I think that can make a monumental difference in how much you retain from a lecture. I spend so much more time outside because you actually have to walk to your classes. Honestly, I think the first time I actually noticed how beautiful autumn is when I was in my freshman year of college. It's so crazy how much time we don't spend outside in high school. I literally cannot remember what seasons felt like when I was in high school. I just remember looking out the window and yearning to feel the summer breeze when it was May. And I don't know why they don't give us this in high school. I guess we have recess when we're in elementary school, but I feel you kind of need that more the older you get, and they just don't give it to us. The last difference, which I think might be the most dangerous one, is you no longer have a curfew. You live by yourself, so that means you can stay out as late as you want. I've gone to freaking insomnia cookies with my friends at 1 a.m. because we were all craving cookies. And I think honestly, the nights out are some of the best nights spent in college. I have so many fun memories with my friends just walking around campus when it's late out, because that's what it's all about. It's about not having a curfew. That is the one thing that college is about. Of course, there are so many other changes that you have to adjust to. I think everyone is kind of on their own little journey. Though your experience and adjustment to college is unique to yourself, just know that there are hundreds and thousands of other people around you going through that same change. I wish you the best of luck beginning college. I know that it can be scary, but it is also a wonderful time, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. I hope you found it helpful and enjoyable, and if you did, please give it a big old thumbs up. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!